All right, we are back with this special episode. A phenomenal gentleman that came highly recommended to me by the amazing Terry Carter at Moonlight Gathering. And we have, it's a True Auto PhD. You go by Dr. True, and welcome, sir. It is a pleasure and honor to have you.
Well, it's always my pleasure. And let me just correct you. There's no O at the OT. It's just OTT.
Oh.
That's okay. Just don't call me late for supper. That's what my wife says.
Fair.
Okay.
Well, I personally, I've been working on that. I was born early, and my mom says I've been running late ever since. But I try to show up on time as best I can, and we've got her going here. And just to start off, we'll do a broad range of topics because you have been involved with Monoatomics, with the Pentagon contract, and then with, I believe, at least a decade or couple decades of exploring the enigmas of the mounds and giants' bones recovered and artifacts and all sorts of things.
Yes, like I said, I know enough to be dangerous, and I seem to have kept the deep state awake a little bit, for whatever that's worth. Yes.
Oh, worth a lot. And no lies, Jack. This is a live stream. This is live and happening right now. And we will start off maybe with a bit of your history, as you are a PhD. And like I said, you had a contract at one point with the Pentagon.
Well, I should say I did not have a personal contract. My mentor in DC, however, did, and he's now deceased, so we can talk about him all we like, probably. Dr. Melvin Laney, Laney, has had some very, very high-level contacts in the Pentagon. His home was right there off the Beltway at Alexandria, Virginia, and suffice it to say, this man had absolutely top high-level contacts in the Pentagon. So he's the one that initiated that and actually got the contract. So I was just an appendage to that. Just want to make that very clear. Okay.
Very good.
So yes, what happened? I needed, let's turn the clock back a little bit and tell you what led up to this contract, okay? Because history is part of understanding what is lies and what is pure baloney, okay? This is a story that probably would make a nice movie, and every part of it is absolutely true. Yet sometimes I look back myself and I kind of blink and say, did I really experience that? And yes, I have. So let me begin. Starting in 1987, so you turn the clock back to that time, I had what is now called hypokalemia. Hypo meaning low, kalemia, blood potassium. In fact, I was dangerously low in blood potassium to the point where I actually, in my business, walking across the carpet, I collapsed, and I remember just having my nose eat the carpet, and then I looked down on my body laying on the floor, and then I went extra dimensional. That's the best way to say it. Some people call it an NDE, near-death experience. I don't call it anything, but my memory of that day, 1987, is something I'll never forget. I did go into a different realm. I did go into a place of greenery, of harmony, of flowing water everywhere, literally. And I met people that or energies, I guess you could call them. They weren't really people, but intelligences that I had never known before. My grandfather, who passed away when my dad was 14, I met him. In fact, I'm given his first name Alma. I go by A True, but Alma was his name. I was named after him. I met him and had a nice interview with him. I remember looking into the water, the flowing river and streams, crystal clear, and seeing massive, what looked like either huge rainbow trout or steelhead or large salmon. But I was, being a fisherman at heart, I was anxious to find a fishing pole and go try and catch them. And my grandfather looked at me and he said, "Well, it's catch and release only here, and you have to go talk to him, the fellow on the hill." And I looked up, and here's this gentleman riding bareback on the most magnificent white stallion that I've ever seen. And I'm a horseman too. I trained horses at the time of this experience. I loved, absolutely had an affinity for horses of all kinds. And so I made my way to this horseman on the hill, and it I was focused on the horse because it was just absolutely the most gorgeous animal I've ever seen. Just absolutely flowing with perfect proportions. And again, the communications in this place was not like we're talking right now. It's, you just know when you look into their eyes, it's communication. They're just telling you, it's thought processes, if that makes sense. We
Like
weren't really,
telekinesis.
yeah, we weren't really speaking. We were just communicating. But the rider said, "You really like my horse?" And I said, "It's absolutely gorgeous." And then the rider dismounted, and to my amazement, the horse turned from a shining, almost blinding white to the opposite, dark, shining, black, shining in the most beautiful luster of a black horse could. And then, to my amazement, this horse began to change color. It went to a dark bay color, to a sorrel, to a gray color, and shimmering back and forth. I was just amazed. It was like horse of a different color, for want of a better expression. And I was amazed, and then I realized who I was speaking to, and it was the creator of the world, Yahshua Messiah, the Christ. I knew him. He does have marks, scars in his hands and in his feet. And I had an interview with him, a very powerful interview, because I was told that this was basically a sleep state, and that everybody that ever lived would be, goes into this state of existence. Our intelligences are eternal, and they're as unique as our fingerprints and our individual DNA. That's what is so amazing. All the billions and billions of individuals, human beings, Homo sapiens, whatever you want to call us, have a unique fingerprint and deoxynucleic acid DNA signature. And if we can't agree on that, we might as well just not talk about anything else, because each person is unique. Every person that's ever breathed air in this world has unique connection to your creator. And that's what I learned that day. Wow. When you pass away, when you go extra dimensional, your energy does leave your body. Your soul energy, which is unique in its frequencies, goes to another dimension of time and space. Of that, I witness. I know, because I saw it and I was explained. It was explained to me. Now, that does not mean, however, that this intelligence will go to live with the Creator in a harmonious afterlife. And I've explained that the key to that is just simply not working for it, not trying to be the best person, but just developing a relationship with that Creator. That's what's key. It's not about religion. It's not about a dogma or a church priest or whatever telling you. No, it's relationship wise. He
I
explained to me.
absolutely love that. Sorry, I just had to say I absolutely love that, and I fully relate that it's about creating your own sovereignty with our creator and creator consciousness and source, right?
That's exactly what I was told, and I hadn't gotten that, and he let me know because I was missing that, and he let me know very clearly that where he would go in the upper, and there's multiple heavens, one of a better word. The Bible talks about 7 heavens. I believe there's probably much more than that. I don't know for sure how many there are, but there is a place where he dwells, where this high intelligence of creation dwells. And he explained to me, because I had no relationship with him, that I would not be with him in the eternities. And then I felt something that I've never felt before. I have since, but before that time, there's something called love. It's an overpowering sensation of just acceptance of being one with him. And that's what we hear the script all the time. God is love. Well, yes. Christ, God, Father, Holy Spirit, it is love. And when you feel it, you can never explain it. It's beyond human words to actually give. So it's I can just tell you that it's an energy field and a sensation, a frequency that just engulfs you, and everything is okay. Everything is all right. And then I realized, well, if I can't be with him in that love, it's a terrible robbery. And I demanded, I said, that's just not fair that I just didn't have a chance to experience that and fully develop it. I passed away much too early. I was in my 20s. And I was like, I guess the best way to describe it, what I felt is like George Bailey in It's a Wonderful Life. I want to live again. I want to live again. No, I don't want to be robbed. And long story short, I woke up in the back of an ambulance with a sheet over my head. And the EMTs, which were friends of mine, actually, I knew them pretty well. I remember coming out of anesthesia. Stay with us, True. Stay with us now. Stay with us now. And they picked up my heartbeat where I was flatlined before. And they explained to me that I was flatlined for a good 50 minutes. And
50.
yes, 50. It's in my medical record. Over
Wow.
50 minutes. They actually gave me 7 of those big electrical jokes, to get your heart beating. And after the 7th, they don't do an 8th. They said they were limited to 7. And so they loaded me up in the onto their gurney in the back of the ambulance, and I was flatlined still. So the next thing was, well, 50 plus minutes, I should be brain dead. And my wife,
Right?
bless her heart, says I am brain dead. So I'm, I must be.
I would argue that, but your wife definitely has more experience, so I will not debate her.
I had to, there was damage to my heart. I've had some valve um, replacement things going on in the last 4 or 5 years. The cardiologist team that looked at my records, they said, this must be a typographical error. 52 minutes? No, that must be 5.2 minutes. I said, no, that's what they told me. And they said, well, you should have brain damage with with that. And I said, well, tell that to the biblical Lazarus. Okay, he was dead for 3 days. I can tell you that the creator of the earth, the creator of the universe, is not limited by science. I'm just going to tell you that. And they looked at me like, whatever, okay, well, let's go forward. So, did I have an NDE, near death experience? Absolutely, most positively. Do I talk about it to a lot of people? No, I really don't. In fact, this is probably the first podcast where I've actually, I don't know why I'm telling you this.
Well, I appreciate you opening up, and well respected, sir.
So this is the background of leading to the Pentagon contract, because at that point, when I came back to myself, they had the blood work up, and they said you have virtually no potassium in your bloodstream. So they immediately began an IV drip where it's not saline solution, it was more potassium. And man, did I have like, wow, I'm back. At this time I could reverse dunk a basketball. I played collegiate basketball, and I thought I was in, semi-pro athletic shape. I actually worked out with Pistol Pete Maravich and the Utah Jazz when they first moved to Utah. So I mean, wow. And by the way, Pistol Pete Maravich died of the same thing, hypokalemia. He just dropped dead after a workout. So it happens. It happens. And I was so fortunate, so blessed to get that IV drip in me, and I was like Superman, in the phone booth. I was ready to go. I'm good. Everything's fine. Um, the hospital didn't really want to release me because it just happened. But hey, I'm a businessman. I had a business ship to take care of. I have, $1 million business I was working, and I had to go take care of business. I needed a ride back because I rode to the hospital in an ambulance, and I wanted to get back. And so I called up a friend. He came and picked me up, and that's what happened to me. This was 1987. However, the potassium level still kept going down. For whatever reason, I could not assimilate potassium in my food. They gave me horse pills, large pills of potassium. They did absolutely nothing to me. I ate bananas like King Kong to get the potassium. I couldn't absorb it. I had to go in regularly for a potassium drip, like every 30 days. And I didn't want to be like that the rest of my life. I just wondered why in the world my gut was not absorbing potassium, a critical electrolyte. And that search to find out why, to fix me, led me to Dr. Linus Pauling and my friend Dr. Melvin Laney in Washington, D.C. In fact, for the record, it was Dr. Melvin Laney who introduced me to Dr. Linus Pauling, two-time Nobel Prize winner, and the fellow who wrote the book on minerals. All right? So Dr. Laney and his referral to Dr. Pauling was intrigued with my ability to write, to express verbally thoughts. And he said, if you would like, I'm looking for someone to teach about the right form of mineral supplementation and the 21 essential minerals, not just potassium now. There's 21 minerals, 7 times 3, that Dr. Pauling explained are critical for the human body. Dr. Pauling said many, many times, you can trace every disease, every condition, ultimately to, quote, a mineral deficiency. Now, I graduated from the university in accounting and business administration. I had no idea about minerals and nutrition and physical anatomy of the human body, but Dr. Pauling was very adept at teaching me and getting me into the basics and actually having me learn about the role of minerals, which is the basic roots of nutrition. So I went through with Dr. Pauling's work, Dr. Laney, and I got my doctorate, my PhD through their tutelage out of West Germany, and the rest is history. That's where I began. So when you understand what's going on with this monoatomic elements, you have to realize that you take, as part of Dr. Pauling's tutelage and Dr. Laney's tutelage, you take 99.999% pure mineral like potassium, like calcium. Most people don't realize that calcium is actually a metal. It's a mineral element. And so you have these pure elemental rods that are pure to the 90.999 percentile, and then through a specific electromagnetic release of ions, they are released into pure distilled water. That is the basis of my mineral company, Mother Earth Minerals. That's what was formed in early 1991. So here we have 21 minerals, and part of, when Dr. Pauling passed away in 92, we were busy discussing the role of platinum group minerals, PGMs. Platinum group minerals are unique in their structure, he was telling me. Specifically, his field of research that he was working on with me was exploring all of what platinum is and how platinum oftentimes shows up when you have gold and silver, precious metals of that stripe. What makes platinum an essential mineral element, and what makes the subset in the periodic table of the platinum group minerals, PGMs? Well, the intrigue was focused on iridium. Now, iridium, part of the platinum group minerals, is called the rainbow element. When you have pure elemental iridium under the microscope, it is iridescent rainbow looking. It's beautiful, actually. So we were exploring ways. He said you can break down rhodium and other platinum group minerals into the solute that's needed, but he was having problems having iridium release. So I was experimenting again. My doctoral thesis, my PhD thesis, was to map out what makes minerals do their job at the cellular level in the mitochondria and the Golgi complex inside the cell. And believe it or not, it's all about frequency. It's sound. It's a pulse rate. Now, you met me at the Moon Lake Gathering, which is a lot of a sponsorship is from metal detectors at a high level. Fisher and others was great to give us some of these new modern metal detecting equipment, because that's what it's all about. There are now metal detectors that you can set to a specific frequency to pick up gold or silver or platinum or even rubies and diamonds. These things are so sophisticated now, they can actually search for gold only or silver only or platinum only. And it's based on exactly this scientific fact. Minerals work because they exude a specific frequency. All right? And I have that all in my doctoral dissertation. I'll tell you, the 21 minerals in my dissertation, I have the exact Hertz frequency they pulse at. That exact.
Oh my. Okay, I definitely need to read your dissertation after this, because everything you're describing is exactly what I'm working on. It's so parallel. It's amazing, but I'm going to shut up and let you continue. I just had to interject there.
Well, like I said, I don't have anything scripted here with this interview. I just let it flow. It's the way I've always done since I began broadcasting my own radio show live in 1989. And this is what I've been exploring the whole time: is what minerals, what is the role of minerals through Dr. Pauling's research and Dr. Laney's? What are the role of minerals in health and wellness and something called homeostasis, balance? Okay. So that's what I've been doing since I was on the other side and came back in the late 1980s. For whatever it's worth, I'm very quiet about it. We can talk for hours about when you start putting out pure healing is when you start getting targeted and arrested by the powers that be. Now, I don't want to be censored off of YouTube here or do anything, but that's just a fact that happened to me. Dr. Laney and the World Naturopathic Health Organization that we founded told me up front, he says, if the more efficient your nutritional healing is directly proportionate to the amount of opposition you're receiving the powers that be. And yes, when I heard that, I didn't believe it. I thought it was conspiracy nonsense. I trusted the FDA and the powers that be, that it was all science is good. I'm pro science, pro science, pro science. I didn't believe that would happen, but let me tell you, it did. I was arrested, shut down, my work confiscated, and I was charged with a class 1 felony. I was not convicted of such, but I was arrested. And it was a nightmare. So I choose to do what I do very quietly. I don't try to make a big sensation. I don't want to be a Fortune 500 company. Dr. Laney told me that's not what it's about. Dr. Pauling, the same way, said the same thing. Just help people that need to be helped, and they will come to you. So whether it's divine inspiration or whatever you want to call it, and you help those people, and that's all that you should focus on. Well, now I'm 65 years old, and the story is all in an unpublished book manuscript. A lot of it needs to be told now. That's why I'm sharing this with you in this podcast. It's an amazing story. It absolutely 100% of it's true. And so let's turn back. Now that's the basis of it, okay? So when you ask about the Pentagon contract, please, I'm sorry if I went around the barn a long way here.
No, this is amazing, and it gives good context.
Okay. So in trying to get iridium rods to release into the pure water and have them be the way of distribution under the tongue, sublingually into the bloodstream, which is what every other mineral I do does, right? Lo and behold, we tried different things, different alchemical processes, aqua regia, other things, and acids trying to get it, because iridium was like holding on to its stuff pretty jealously. It wasn't releasing the minerals, wasn't releasing its ions, its angstrom particles, angstrom-sized particles, 1/1000th of a micron, named for Johann Angstrom, the Swedish chemist. That's the key to this: angstrom-sized particles binding with hydrogen ions. Okay, that's a nutshell. That's it, all wrapped up in one tight nutshell. So iridium rods would not do this, but as we bathe them with frequencies and different strengths of aqua regia, other alchemical means, what happened is unique. These rods began to grow. Like you see those chia pet things,
Oh yeah.
You put chia seeds in the water and they start to sprout and grow little chia hairs. It's like that. these iridium rods were growing like fur, like some kind of white substance growing around these rods. So I would take and lift the rod up, and with the credit card, I'd scrape it off and put it into a vial and bathe it again. And 24 hours later, it's another bunch of fur growing. I call it fur for want of a better explanation or a verb for it. Okay. And before long, I gathered a plastic quart container of it. And I began to look at it closely. I said, no, wait a minute. I know enough about quantum mechanics and physics to be dangerous. Here's a substance that occupies mass and space in a container, yet it has absolutely no weight attached to it. None. Went from a quart to a gallon glass container, then to a 5-gallon. I had this powder all in this container. And I'd weigh the container, an empty container with the lid, with a very, very sensitive chemist scale, and get the exact poundage and to the micro ounce. Add the material, and it doesn't change. It fills the mass and space, but there's no weight to it. So in mechanics, quantum mechanics, it means this is occupying a very high spin state. Only way you can explain that phenomenon. And as I would, this is what's amazing, as you would shake it like like a maraca, just shake it, put it on the scale, the actual weight of the container became less. Now that I couldn't explain that. So
and what you're stating is parallel to what David Hudson originally described in some of his experiments. But sorry to bring him up because I know that you've got some controversy with him, but I just wanted to bring that one parallel.
Well, surely, yes, and I appreciate that. He was getting his research, nothing from I submit that it wasn't from himself. He was looking at quantum laboratories and what they were looking for. Dr. Hal Puthoff and others were describing what it would look like if it was truly exotic matter. Now, believe me, David Hudson, his work and his writings are and were scientifically accurate. But, and I, as I was trying to figure out what I had here, and looking into high spin state monoatomics, I came across him and his monatomic gold, and I bought some samples they sent, and they just flat out didn't. They occupied mass and space, but they were definitely heavyweights. They were weighted. Okay, it didn't fit the description of exotic matter. I'll leave it at that. Okay. Was it a different form of gold? Probably, but it did not fit the exotic matter definition. Flat out didn't. Okay. And I sent samples to the laboratory that Dr. Laney was involved with in Washington, and that became concurrent. In fact, I don't want to be negative, but it was more towards lead, PB, than AU gold. Now look at the periodic table. Look at lead versus gold. The difference is one simple little electron. Okay? It should be easy, for the alchemists of old to take lead, which is, pretty common, alter that one electron, and ta-da, you have gold, AU. So I just wonder if that, and I can't speak for Mr. Hudson, but I would think he's trying to find the philosopher's stone and try to turn lead into gold. And I don't know. I think that's kind of what he was looking for. I'm just, again, that's my opinion. Not, I don't know if that's true or not. That's just my opinion. But I regress. We need to go and look at, so we have this weightless white powder. So I sent it off to Dr. Laney in Washington, D.C., and he did whatever high-level analysis he does. And he's the one that came back and said, oh my goodness, high-spin powder like this will heal wounds, will stop bleeding immediately. And he actually put it out for, this is not anecdotal, he actually has some controlled work in about 6-week period, where he applied it to known hemophiliacs, free bleeding individuals. It clotted their blood and stopped their free bleeding immediately. So then it began to do some animal testing. First of all, is it safe? Is it toxic if you give it to lab rats and solute in water? Will it kill them? Is it toxic? No. It wasn't. It was actually worked as it actually made their fur more luxurious. It was like a big nutrient to them. So then looking at it on incision wounds on a controlled double blind, rats healed up, like 10 times faster with this powder put on the wound than not. Then so from there it went into human testing, and this is all rapidly under the Pentagon, the War Department. Come on. They found that this would be amazing to impregnate into a bandage. And Dr. Laney actually had the name for it. He called it the Achilles bandage. And that he would impregnate this with a bandage, slap it on a wound in a field dressing, stop the bleeding, and lives could be saved. Proving it was non-toxic and just rapidly heals wounds. So that's where the contract with the Pentagon came from. And
right?
it was
Very noble cause of healing soldiers, and a very rational investment from the Pentagon of, hey, if you could actually achieve rapid healing, of course they would want to invest and manufacture that, right? Like,
indeed, and that's the whole purpose of it. Dr. Laney had enough pull with Pentagon suppliers. It was a very lucrative contract. I'm a simple kind of guy, and when you throw around millions, that's pretty big for me. But no, we're talking about bees, hundreds of bees. And so now we had to get production and contracting that. And Dr. Laney, through the military contracts, military industrialist complex contracts, no problemo. We went in big time with a secure facility. I actually was flown down there to oversee the formation of how to do it under contract. And this was a very secure facility. A lot of it was underground, actually, down at West Texas border. And it was one of those type of facilities you have to go in with an eye scan, high security clearance to get him into this background. And so I was I would say about 1,200 square feet to begin with, and then went to 12,000 square feet to manufacture this powder in a rapid. They had to get the iridium rod secured and all of that, and it was top priority for the Pentagon. The Pentagon can do some great things when it wants to. I witnessed it. It was like 6 months, and it was like kaboom. It was happening. Well, I'm not a billionaire. I'm not a Bill Gates. I'm not even close. Because what happened was, this was in the area of remember Miss Condoleezza Rice,
Oh, yes.
NSA director? When word got out to the NSA, I don't have the high clearance. Dr. Lenny was telling me this is what happened. The NSA became involved, and the contract was nixed. Long story short, I'm thinking, okay, I need to pay a down payment on my yacht. What happened? Well, there was definitely a connection with this white powder and some top secret things going on with the UFO MUFON research community. And it's above my pay grade on this, and it surely was above Dr. Laney's pay grade. But what he's able to kind of piece together, there was a UFO crash, allegedly, now, right, in New Mexico. And in that downed spacecraft and the outer rings, as I was explained, I don't know this for 100%. This is secondhand information. Their hazmat suit people came out because they were putting in samples of a weightless white powder that was somehow energized in the flying object's exterior circular structure, allowing it to go extra dimensional.
That's so fascinating, but it's parallel with all the descriptions of monoatomics, of them being weightless, and of it essentially being a quantum or also plasma state where it's simultaneously existing in a higher dimension or has a connectivity to it, right? That it would be this ultimate metamaterial that would be used.
Yes, and so for whatever reason, it was not to be used as an Achilles bandage to stop bleeding, to heal rapidly. That's the end result. Okay, so wow, I'm just like, okay, good try, easy come, easy go, right? But I still, and then because I wasn't on a mass production scale, I still produced it, in my little gallon jug and give it out to people like I just described in a small state as people needed it. Now, here's what I found that was really amazing. And I sent this on to Dr. Laney in DC, and he was like, he explained it very well. He has 5 advanced degrees in science and chemistry. Okay, 5 PhDs. He's a genius. Was, I should say. He says that makes all the sense in the world. We tetrahydrocannabinoids in their bloodstream, THC structures, which is delta. They look like delta molecules of THC, right? We found this right by accident. People that would test positive for marijuana usage, when this white powder was applied to them on external wounds, we're talking healing in literally hours. And I'm not talking about complete and total healing, not just blood coagulation. I witnessed this. A friend of mine, I didn't know he was a recreational marijuana user. He's a construction guy and really just an all-around nice guy, very mellow, relaxed, and just, the music scene type of thing. He was using an X-Acto knife cutting some squares on ceiling tile. And I was with him, helping him, and his X-Acto knife slipped and cut his webbing on his left hand. I mean, completely cut that webbing across. It was nasty, and it was gushing blood. And I said, well, my goodness, that's a multi-stitcher. Let's get you down to the ER. He said, no, just pack it in with your monoatomic. I called it ultimatum, That's the trademark name I gave it, ultimatum. Let's pack it with ultimatum, stop the bleeding, and wrap it up. And he had to go down to his home in Cedar City that night because he had a graduation to attend. It was in the spring of the year. Well, his name is Brad. Brad wrapped it up, hoofed it down so he wouldn't, miss his graduation requirement. And he told me he would contact me, and it's a workman's comp thing, right? And tell me how bad the stitches were and this type of thing. He comes back up the following Monday. This happened on a Friday, early, late morning. He comes back up, and my friend, the contractor, Jeff. Well, Brad, how's the wound? He just laughed. He says, I didn't want to tell you on the phone. I wanted to show you. And he showed me his left hand. No evidence whatsoever of that nasty wound. There was not even any scar. My friend Jeff, he about passed out. He looked at me like, what? His jaw dropped, and he said, I got to sit down. I can't believe what I'm seeing here. And that happened not only with Brad, but with 5 other people with massive wounds that healed, within 24 hours. And
it's just revolutionary. Like, this needs to be everywhere, but you're destroying big corporate pharma, thus the opposition, right?
Well, you have to wonder why, cannabis sativa is so demonized. And please believe me, now it's legalized to some degree now, right? It's not given the stigma it was 20 years ago. But my golly, so when I'm a conservative Republican, right? And boy, if it's illegal drugs, I'm against it, period, exclamation point. So when we witnessed what happened to Brad, and Brad confided, well, I wonder if it has anything to do with my cannabis use. And I thought, oh man, Brad, why are you doing cannabis? That's illegal, man. And so, for the sake of science, we got him to do a statement to Dr. Laney at what happened. And Laney, his chemistry understanding, said, of course, it's that the THC that does that. It'd be energized. And wow, do we have something really unique now? All right. But again, Dr. Laney said there's a book put out by Harvard Medical School. It's called Cannabis or Marijuana Revisited. The book's amazing. And wow, as I read that book, I said, why is the powers that be demonizing this natural herb? It shouldn't be. I had a total turnaround understanding it. No, in fact, the very Latin name, cannabis, sativa. Cannabis is Latin for human flesh, right? If you eat human flesh, you're a cannibal. Cannabis is human flesh. Sativa means to fulfill every need of. Really?
Wow.
Satisfy comes from the sativa. So we get the English word satisfy. If you eat a full meal and your hunger is satisfied, everything's good, that's where satisfaction guaranteed comes from. Sativa. Cannabis sativa literally means fulfilling every need of human flesh. So when I see this, I start digging in and researching what in the world is happening. And then I began again. You've all heard of Henry Ford, the founder of Ford Motor Company, right?
Of course.
Do you know that Henry Ford was doing big inroads into hemp, also known as cannabis? Hemp.
I
that
only
he's,
do because you told me this at Moon Lake, but I'm gonna let you
yeah,
tell the rest.
Henry Ford there in Dearborn, Michigan, planted hemp instead of corn. Okay, he was looking at alternative fuels also. Okay, met corn fuel, which we're doing a lot with today. Again, no, he actually, check this out if you don't believe it, listeners. Henry Ford in Dearborn, Michigan, and his chemists they built an entire vehicle completely out of cannabis, out of hemp. I mean, we're talking about axles. We're talking about rubber for the tires. We're talking about engine blocks. I kid you not, completely out of cannabis. I should say hemp. Hemp fuel, biofuel. Have you ever heard this story before?
Not to this degree, but like I have heard of how now they're currently using hemp in building materials, and it's making some of the strongest bricks and fabrics and all sorts of stuff, right? So it proves true. It was suppressed for over 100 years.
Yes, and this was his really far-reaching vision of what hemp can do, because as he explained he put out this in a book that I found, a research booklet that was been censored like crazy, because again it goes back to DuPont and plastics and U.S. Steel and all of that big Fortune 500 companies now. But Henry Ford's prototype, he found that the hemp crops actually enrich the soil, and it was the
So like
fastest
a
growing
legume.
biomass that there is.
That's
Um,
amazing.
Imagine manufacturing a complete vehicle, an assembly line, and having it run on hemp biodiesel, biofuel. Holy mackerel. Yeah,
What a
that's what he was
better
doing.
world it
And
would
so
be.
wow. Now, hemp can be completely free of THC. So hemp seeds, but a hemp seed and hemp seed oil is the richest base and nutrients your body can ever have. It's a fact. It's perfect fuel for the human body, and yet it's been demonized. Hemp that's grown commercially in Canada for decades, right? Hemp oils, hemp for fabrics, etc., etc. Wow, it's absolutely has no THC in it. It's THC certified free. But there are just, it's again going back into the different strains of the cannabis seed and the plant itself. So, wow, I uncovered this and I said, well, isn't that interesting that the powers that be stopped cannabis sativa, the substance that's natural, that supplies every need for humans, human flesh, I mean, everything. And I
Right?
began,
It's in the root word, as you just explained. That's mind blowing. I had no idea.
yeah, a lot of people, that's why we're, if on any podcast, if I can make people think and say an aha moment, I think we've done our job. And that's what I try to do is, and again, I don't want people to just to take my word for it, because I have a piled higher and deeper, designation behind my name. Okay. Just research it yourself like I did. And I'm stunned when I dug into what really has been hidden. And I was one of the worst. I was prejudiced against these Cheech and Chong type of people that smoke away their livelihood. I was against marijuana usage. I really was. But I trusted my friend Brad, who told me, well, he said, True, I I've had having so much problems with my marriage, and I'm suffering from depression. Doctor gave me some antidepressants, and man, it messed me up. Made me feel just outside of my body. But man, my friend, my musician friend, gave me some good stuff to light up and smoke, and man, it has balanced me, and I feel like I can cope. My response to Brad was, "But Brad, it's illegal, man. You're going to go to jail if you're caught, and maybe worse." He said, "Well, I'm going to risk it, but it makes me feel like I can balance and cope." And I respected Brad enough. Yeah, I respected Brad enough to say, "Well, let me research it for you and tell you where you're wrong." Okay. Because I thought maybe it's a gateway to harder drugs and all this stuff. No, all the science shows it's nonsense. So anyway, that's my history of that, going back, combining the THC with the high spin iridium and seeing what it does for healing. Holy mackerel. So that's the story of the Pentagon contract that didn't materialize.
Right, and literally God's path that put you on that, from a near-death experience to talking with creation to then discovering through your experiences and journeys and scientific research that God's plants of marijuana, of cannabis, and hemp are wrongfully demonized by the same individuals that are profiting off of it, selling these antidepressants and all of these other quick. They're never cures. It's just a quick fix, always, right? That always have dependencies attached to them. They can't ever have a cure for anything.
Yes, and in fact, look back at the history of America, our founding fathers. And here's when I uncovered this, I was like, holy mackerel.
Hey, shout out Terry Carter watching. Sorry, I just had to interrupt. We see Terry in the chat.
Hi, Terry. God bless. Terry's one of the good guys. I mean, he's one of the pure hearts in this world. I love Terry. So shout out to Terry. Okay, so look back at history in 1776. You realize something that is not taught in your history books? Who was the big power in the world in the 1750s to 1776? The United Kingdom, Great Britain. I mean, the Royal Navy went all over the world, right? Do you realize that these massive ships, because of the salt corrosion of the sails and the rigging of these massive ships, they had to be replaced about every year to 6 to 18 months because they would start to rip and rot. The material that went into the ropes and the rigging of the sails, canvas from cannabis, hemp.
Wow.
Hemp. And there's not very many places in the UK to grow and harvest hemp, but the colonies were the massive place. Do you realize that there wasn't just tobacco in Virginia being raised, but places like Mount Vernon and Monticello of Thomas Jefferson were primarily hemp plantations? Are you kidding me?
Why? We are not taught this at all.
We are not. And I found that out, and I was just like, oh my heavens. The paper that the Declaration of Independence was signed on is hemp marijuana paper. Okay.
Wow. That's mind-blowing.
I found all that out, and I'm just like, oh, leave it to the powers that be that just don't want people awake and alert, man. I'm telling you, it's sad. Yeah.
Luckily, we're transitioning into a new age, and the lockdowns really had a reverse effect. I feel that it's woken up a lot of people to the reality of the clown world and how pretty much anything official, the exact opposite is usually true.
Yes, well said. Yes, and it's people like you, and back in the day when I started doing radio in 1989, we were pretty limited. There was no technology to do podcasts of this nature and to connect. So I cut my teeth on talk radio. I turned down a very lucrative syndication contract with Clear Channel in the early 90s. Just FYI, that is the syndication of Clear Channel is like Rush Limbaugh and that era. Coast to Coast Radio, okay, with Art Bell, was actually broadcasting out of Pahrump, Nevada, and following my lead of the Story Behind the Story radio show. Just by the way, just BTW. Okay, I turned down the syndication and a $300,000 signing bonus because of one reason. They would have power to censor my content. No way. I do radio because I don't want to be censored. I'm not going to put up with it. And
exactly. And
yeah,
thank you for stating that, because it's getting more and more well known that those personalities that like appeared as the freedom speech have in fact been censored and controlling the narrative for a very long time.
exactly. And yes, I had very, very high ratings in my little I broadcast out of KSUB radio in Cedar City, Utah, and they rebroadcast it in the late night when you have more power amperage. I'm not sure how that works. I had fan mail from Hawaiian Islands, for heaven's sake, coming out, broadcasting out of Southern Utah, KSUB. We talked about a lot of this type of thing, about Area 51, about strange lights in the sky in Nevada, Laughlin, southern Utah going into southern Nevada, all of this. We talked about things that the mainstream media just would not or could not cover. And that's where I began doing it. So what I'm getting at is now thousands of people have free speech being exercised, for better or for worse, for good or for evil, through podcasts. It's just a proliferation. And I'm happy to see that. It's good, in my opinion. It's what the First Amendment is all about. So, yes, listen, I may not agree with some podcasters, but I will die protecting their right to broadcast, because that's what makes us free.
Right, and it's what's been missing, and we need open public discourse and debate. There has to be a platform to actually discuss and come to consensuses and rationally speak on ideas, right? It's like the dictatorship and the false fake sciences have been destroying society, and this is what's needed, and it's the only way, and it's an amazing thing, and it's what's letting us hear your amazing story.
Well, yeah, thank you so much for that, and thanks for having me on as a guest. You heard me burn through what, an hour,
An
almost an
hour?
hour
Can
and
I
a
keep
half.
you for a full second hour?
If you would like, I can go. Like I said, you're the leader. I'll just follow wherever you lead, and we'll go from there. Okay.
All right. Well, we will continue then. We'll try to do a full 2 hours, but try to go into some of your giants and stuff. But before we go to that, can you see what I have on screen here? Do these resemble the type of crystals that you were able to make on your iridium rods?
It looks like it's in an aqueous solution liquid.
Yeah, it's
It
distilled water with salt, and then that's a 24 karat gold bar that's been covered that has these growing off of it.
interesting. No, it doesn't look like that because we're talking about it actually being not an aqueous solution. It's actually in the air above. It becomes like a dry
Oh,
powder.
okay. I got you. I see. Interesting. So, I don't have pictures of those, but I know what you're talking about, and you're saying it was more like hair and fur that formed on it.
Well, yeah, it's interesting that you're hitting that with 24 karat gold. It's reverting back to the crystalline structure. Let me turn your listeners on to Dr. Stefan Reis, Reiss. What a 50-year pioneering genius out of Germany. You know, he has a revolutionary theory about how minerals of any sort was actually formed. And I have to agree 100% with his thesis that water in the form of what's called primary water, which is water from the deep inside of the earth and deep, is coming up and under pressure, piezoelectric pressure with crystals of quartz, primarily other forms. That's what makes the mineral elements from gold, silver, platinum, on down the line. It's that water. And it makes all the sense in the world because what is any element on the periodic table? Number one element is hydrogen, H1, right?
Yes,
It's a
sir.
gas, very lightweight gas, but hydrogen reacts and forms hydrogen bonds that form every other element on the periodic table. You got the noble gases, and the gases from oxygen, which is 8 molecules of electrons versus hydrogen, but all combined. So that in a nutshell, hydrogen is the basic building blocks of all matter in this world. When you get
I,
hydrogen,
I couldn't agree
stop for
more with you.
stop for just a minute and ask me this question, which I would ask Dr. Pauling and Dr. Laney constantly. How is it that you take two gases, hydrogen, oxygen, H2O, two gases form and make a liquid called water? You
Right?
electroporate those back out. You can release hydrogen and you release oxygen back into the gaseous form. How is it they combine to form water? Isn't it interesting that our master of the universe, the creator of the universe, Yahshua Messiah, God, the creator, is the master of water? Think about it. He would have to be. He walks on water. When I went on the other side, it was a water world, dimension of water. We, as human beings, Homo sapiens, we live 9 months, unless you're a test tube baby, right? You live in a mother's womb, which is water based. 9 months. We are all water based. All mammalians have a water womb. Think about it. Just think about it.
It's true, right? And that, yeah, like you said, for 9 months, you're in the maternal waters of your mom of creation before. And the Bible speaks of the waters above as well, right? And it what you're saying is so parallel to my own work, and it just happens that the background that we have behind us is the hydrogen wave functions, and right, hydrogen is the first, and how it turns into water, and through water is how through this electrochemistry of water is where the monoatomics break down and reform and crystallize and solidify. And it's all from the water and the hydrogen bonding.
Exactly. Dr. Reese was right on point with this. And the primary water is unending. Listen to me now. We're not talking about groundwater that seeps up from reservoirs or whatever. We're talking about the fracturing of the Earth's crust in fault lines that bring this from the deep. In the Bible, in Genesis, the fountains of the deep were opened, and the flood waters that flooded the earth came also from inside the earth, as well as the windows of heaven above were opened. That's what we're talking about here. Water, primary water being fountains of the deep. Now, what you're doing, Bernard, is so apropos. You need to get on the Primary Water Institute website and learn about Dr. Reese's work, because it'll help you, because what you're doing is when you form these crystalline structures, that's exactly what primary water does under pressure. It forms the specific mineral elements based on the particular type of crystalline structure, whether it's the feldspar, the granite, or whatever that's there. That's what forms the earth. In fact, minerals are the basic building blocks of all life. Dr. Pauling, you can trace
Yes.
every disease, every imbalance, every condition ultimately to mineral frequency imbalance. That's what lack of homeostasis is all about, according to Dr. Pauling. Two-time Nobel Prize winner, my friend. Okay?
Just so amazing. And that what you just described is another reason why I desperately now realize how badly I need to read your dissertation that has those frequencies in it, because those frequencies of the elements is what is, I believe, and probably you yourself too, that will form the specific crystal shapes of these elements as they make the bonds in the water as we reform into the solid elements.
I'll go one step further, Bernard, and this is what scared people. Okay? Now, keep in mind, Dr. Pauling in the 1940s, as a young genius that he was in Germany, his dissertation, and I'll send you his too, okay? Because I just build on his work. All right. My title of my dissertation is Harmonic Frequencies. His was simply frequencies. So we see that the concept is we're trying to explain how things were actually formed in the earth. You understand that you basically have the philosopher's stone. You have the key to understanding really oneness with our creator. Then see that he did it. He did the work. It's not some mythology in some dusty old book somewhere. We can explain it, and it all is based on water. He's the water of life. He brings the water. He forms it, the building block of hydrogen combined with oxygen, O2. See, that's what it's about. So when you follow Dr. Reese's work and the parallels to see that everything crystalline forms in the earth, whether it's a gold or precious metal, whatever that may be, then it's formed also into the human body. I did in my various lectures and teachings that I've done worldwide. It's simply this: we are simply, our bodies are composed of what? Minerals, a handful of minerals, and water. That's all we are. If you take out, there's hydroponics now, or a new science of taking care of dead bodies. Okay, instead of cremation, it's aquamation. You actually put and go your flesh goes into water, back into the water, and your bones, which is your basic hard mineral crystal structure, remains, right? Well, man, I've seen the process. When you look at the effluent coming off of a body, it's just powerfully rich nutrients. You know, it's the best plant fertilizer that you can give to plants. Period. It's Miracle Grow times 10.
Right. And so when these minerals, it's the ionic state that it's called, right? So it's a monoatomic element that is then ionically bonded in with water. That is what you're talking about. And so here's like my regular lettuce plants that I was growing with regular water. And then this lettuce plant, although yes, it's in seed, so are some of these ones sprouting, but it's that it actually grew to 6 feet tall. And this was the leftovers of giant leaves. My dad was amazed. We had over 30 salads off of this one plant this one summer that after watering it with that ionic gold silver water, that it was able to grow this big. And it just goes to show how it all works, and that it is the magic key to longevity, health, and God's creation, right? The fountain of youth, essentially.
Yeah. Don't get me started on that one. but yes, it's absolutely correct. I mean, the Ponce de Leon, the Spanish explorer, was looking for the mythical fountain of youth, and yes, the right primary water is embedded with that powerfully. And I'll leave it at that. I won't say too much more about that.
And show one more. So here is a picture of the same. This one's just pure ionic gold water that I froze as ice cubes. And every time it does these exclusion zones of the clear areas of water and then the bubbles in these specific fields. And that ionic water, depending on the elements, keeps the memory and actually does the structured physical structure showing even when you freeze it.
That looks like the vortex of the energy field interdimensionally everybody goes through upon death, by the way.
Amazing, right? Very interesting. And so here's
the Bible
several.
talks about the city of God, Zion, as it's called in the book of Revelation, being of pure gold, of 24 karat gold, because that's extra dimensional. And by the way, mapping out the frequencies of gold, I mean pure gold, here's what's will shock you. Hopefully your jaw will drop. You can map out that frequency pulse, and it superimposes almost perfectly over the emotion readout of an EEG of a woman or mother and her love for her child. It's mother's love. It's the most
What?
powerful force in the universe.
That is mind blowing. This I need to see. That's
Yeah.
that's amazing.
So yeah, the my guy in DC was telling me during the reason why we really went into Iraq, okay, to stop Saddam Hussein. He had unearthed there in ancient Mesopotamia, aka Babylon, an ancient Stargate, and
I believe it.
it was structured in gold. It was a gold energy filled, an extra dimensional portal, for want of a better word. Okay, which is why we have the CERN super collider and everything else going on in Switzerland, right? They're exploring these extra dimensional portals, and frankly, they should leave it the heck alone, because that's
I
where
agree.
God rules, not man.
right? And that is God technology. It was essentially the fallen angels or demigod technologies that were probably building these in the past. And it's that God has ultimate control, but below God is the demon. So it's like if you're able to access or use it, it's probably on a demonic level if you're not talking with God directly and have a positive divine purpose and like getting the message and the information from source is my understanding of how it works.
Yes, and just yesterday, in fact, I was just I don't usually watch TV, but I'm up here at my place in North Idaho, and my granddaughters are watching this. There was a channel, American Heroes channel. I don't have it in my cable box down in Utah. AHC had this section on Adolf Hitler and Heinrich Himmler. Um, Hitler's what was it called? The title of it was Adolf Hitler's uh, zombies. Adolf Hitler's zombie army. And what the heck was that about? So I just started watching it, and it talked about the reason Heinrich Himmler and the Anunnaki, the secret society of, using all kinds of divination and demonic channeling from Lamb and Aleister Crowley type of individuals. Holy mackerel. They had trying to find into the power base of the underworld, and they had dug this massive shaft down into the Austrian Alps, going back in a the salt mountain, right? And it documented. Remember there was a movie called Memorial Man that came in and was able to salvage all of the priceless artwork that Hitler had spirited off, right? The Monuments Man is what it's called. Yeah. Well, in the same labyrinth of massive underground tunnels that they found all these priceless works of art, what they didn't tell, again, this is the story behind the story. Massive vaults and chambers going deep, 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 hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of feet down. And they had uncovered these bones, skeletal remains of Nephilim giants. And they were red-haired types that they believed was the source of the Aryan power base. Imagine that. And they had been channeling this through the Anunnaki, the secret society there of Heinrich Himmler. And this is where they were getting their power base to control the world in the Third Reich. It's an amazing documentary. I was like, hello, makes all the sense in the world to me.
Fascinating. And that there was, I'm not sure if you've seen, there was a bunch of videos also from Iraq, I believe, that got released before America went in, where supposedly they found like the tomb of Gilgamesh or something. But
Yes.
it was like, yeah, and they still had like the flesh. They were in these all completely gold sarcophagi with all gold artifacts. It almost looked like a supercomputer sort of thing they were stored in, but like there was no sign of decay on them. They looked like they were just in a suspended animation almost.
Ditto with what they found in those salt mines deep. And of course, it was classified above top secret. And that was part of what's called Operation Paperclip, bringing all these Nazi scientists into, just paper clipping them into America in the university structures, not the least of which is Werner von Braun and the rocket, V2 rocket science, all of this. It's amazing, jaw-dropping when you see it unfold. What
really
aren't they telling? Okay. It would fill volumes, encyclopedias of volume.
Yeah. And it also explains a bit of Operation High Jump that went on right afterwards when they went down to Antarctica.
Absolutely. One of my most powerful interviews, Bernard, was when I was talking about that on my radio show. I got a phone call from a family and down in Phoenix, and they said, "Oh, you come down and meet this fellow. He was a first lieutenant on the flight deck of Operation High Jump's aircraft carrier." Holy mackerel! Yeah, I hoofed it down there and met him, and it's all-American hero. He explained how he's being trained for the key flight task force, bombing force, to go into it, invade Tokyo, but the war didn't happen because of the H bomb type of thing. He had all of the photographs and pictures, and this guy was a legitimate #1 guy. His flight coat, his flight jacket, had Operation High Jump sticker on, or patch on it. Okay. Wow, did he tell me a story? Now he says, I can't have this go public, but I will tell you if you give you a yes or no answer. He had signed a debriefing with the Naval Intelligence Forces, that he could not disclose in depth what he witnessed there in Operation High Jump. And he was very, very patriotic. He said, I will not divulge anything that I've sworn an oath not to. I take that very seriously. I won't, even though I'm in my 80s, I don't want to betray my trust of my comrades. I tell you what came out of that interview. He saw Foo Fighters. He saw these UFOs come out of the water and play with his planes of that era like a cat toys with a mouse. Extreme high technology. He knew, as being the flight leader, that they could have destroyed the entire fleet. They took down 2 destroyers already just to show what they can do. And they called off. They said, we don't want any more destruction. We don't want, if you press it, we will destroy the entire fleet. They arranged a meeting with Admiral Byrd on the ice cap, and they gave him paperwork and documentation to take back to President Truman and the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And of course, the Russians, which were allies at the time, right? The Soviets. So that's what happened, according to this fellow telling me. He says, I was one of the officers of the flight deck, and we were told just enough to say, be quiet about it. Admiral Byrd and his XO were taken, airlifted to Brazil, I understand, or some South American base, and caught a flight right to the Pentagon and debriefed Truman and the Joint Chiefs of Staff. What this guy told me was the Secretary of Defense at the time, Forrestal, said no, not only no, but hell no. We need to be transparent, and we need to tell the American public exactly what's going on here. And Forrestal was told, no, Americans, the world can't know the truth here. And he was told to be quiet. He refused. He was upset, went out and they suicided him out of a hospital window.
A window, yeah.
Yeah. Now, this guy's telling me I never heard of Secretary Forrestal, and verified everything he said. Holy mackerel! What a story!
Right, and most likely actual world history.
Yes, because that is what Operation Paperclip was all about. See, that all came later as they brought the Werner von Braun's into the space program and NASA. And we've been controlled by the deep state secrecy ever since. That's the connection. That's where it became, where the full head of the serpent became empowered at that point, when Forrestal was killed. Oh, and by the way, he also explained Forrestal was Roman Catholic, and the priest that was his confidant, he did all of this confessions to, was the exact same priest of a gentleman named John Fitzgerald Kennedy Jr. JFK Sr.
Really?
And that's when JFK took the oath of office. I think he finally was this Catholic priest who was now quite elderly, helped me connect the dots, and that's why JFK Sr. said no to the deep state. He when he gave his speech in Columbia, he says, we are, the very word secrecy is repugnant to a free and open society. And he vowed to tell the story of this very story we're talking about right now. And the rest is history. He was taken out of Dealey Plaza. Isn't that interesting?
That is, and it makes perfect sense.
I wouldn't have put the places together, but this gentleman in Phoenix, he said, ask me what I know, but I can tell you yes and no. And then when you can ask the right questions on a yes and no, you can get a lot of information. Okay.
Now, I know exactly what you're speaking of, and it's awesome.
So for what it's worth, that's been my 40 years of radio investigative journalism. Okay. And yeah, people are programmed that the CIA puts out, well, they're the one that coined the term conspiracy theory to, no. Well, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm just trying to tell the truth, for heaven's sakes.
Exactly. We're just fighting the counterintelligence, right? It's amazing how they've coined themselves the intelligence agencies, right? Just this backwards world where literally all their work is in counterintelligence. What does that mean? They're countering the real story and making everyone stupider. So it's not an intelligence agency, it's the propaganda outlets.
Yeah, and don't forget who Alan Dulles, and that was the CIA in the 50s and 60s under Eisenhower. Have you watched that President Eisenhower's final address to the nation on TV? It used to be all over the internet. Now it's kind of hard to find.
Is that the one where he's calling out the military-industrial complex?
Yes.
Yes.
Beware the military-industrial complex and what they're doing, which is what I'm fighting with this stuff with the white gold and the Achilles bandage. That's who we're talking about. The military-industrialist complex and their unwarranted influence over university programs. Why would Dwight David Eisenhower, 5-star general, Allied commander of D-Day, career military man, why would he warn the nation in his final address to beware the military complex?
Right? Like, very powerful point right there. Literally a career military man warning against the military-industrial complex, right? Which that's essentially the fascist state. That's not the actual national army and like the military personnel. That's the private government contractors and the Fortune 500s.
The Black Rocks of the world. So yeah, that's what it is. Whew. Yeah.
All right. Well, we got about half hour left, and we're also going to have to do many more interviews together, my friend. And the next one, we're also going to have to include Julia Cameron, my co-host. She really wanted to be here tonight, but she had a class at the same time, so she regrettably couldn't be. But I was like, don't worry, Julia. This man has so much information, so many topics to cover. We will have him back again, and she will have an opportunity. But let's finish this off on maybe a lighter or a deeper topic, depending on people's perspective. But the buried bones of giants or larger people that you've dealt with or had the experiences of or interviewed over your career.
Well, yeah, that's kind of, it doesn't seem to be connected, but in a very real way now, as I look back, it is absolutely connected. Again, it goes back to what Operation High Jump was all about. What were they really doing? Who were they communicating with under the ice cap of Antarctica and New Schwabenland, the Nazi base down there? It ties into Himmler, what's called the Anunnaki, his secret society of the Heinrich Himmler did all of this occultic channeling of who? The Nephilim giants. That's what I'm finding out in spades now. You see, let's talk about who the giants are from a historically biblical perspective, right? You see Genesis chapter 6, verse 4, we see the fallen angels led by the son of the morning, Lucifer, falling to earth, and they become sexually attractive to the daughters of Eve, human women. And they come into them as any form that they want and have sexual relations with them, and they produce hybrid offspring
I
called the
just have
Neph.
to pause quickly because I just had this thought for the first time that that's a very identical story to like the Greek legends of the gods and how they came down and then would birth these heroes, right? Like, but they would appear as whatever they wanted to the people they were seducing.
Yes, exactly. It's not only the Greek um, documents, but also going into China. The first emperor of China in the first century BC. All of these are recorded and memorialized in his tomb, the first emperor's tomb, where they had the 1,000 terracotta warriors, all of that. Okay, yeah, it's identical. And so you have in the Dead Sea Scroll material, you have part of the Essene library that was uncovered there are all these biblical scrolls which show that the Bible is pretty well translated correctly, right? That's pretty clear, especially the Tanakh, the Old Testament. But then you go into the extra biblical text, what's called the apocryphal text. You have the book of Enoch, you have the book of Jasher, you have the book of Jubilees. All this is part of the library of the ancient Essenes. Now, what that all says is this in a nutshell. Genesis chapter 6 is expanded in the book of Giants and the book of Jasher and the book of Enoch. Here's in a nutshell. The hybrid giants that became the Nephilim, when they passed away, when their flesh, because they're hybrids, they're not human, they're not Homo sapiens, there is no conduit for their souls to move onwards as was done by the Creator. So it was clearly that the souls and spirits of the Nephilim became the demonic realm, the intelligences that the deep state people like Aleister Crowley and Madame Blavatsky and the likes of Heinrich Himmler channeled. That's the intelligences that they brought in with their nonsensical plan to control the world by killing countless amounts of human beings. That's the insanity of World War II, right there in a nutshell. Okay? So when you see the tie-in to who are the Nephilim, these are the giants. Now you know why when a 15-year-old farm boy playing rancher like me uncovers a skeletal remains of a Nephilim, in southern Utah in a place called Johnson Canyon. Why that's hidden and never makes the newspaper. Why, when the LDS Church, by the way, is excavating their massive pit to build their conference center in the 90s, I had a phone call from one of the general contractors of the heavy equipment, and he was telling me about the massive, there was like 8 giant skeletal remains uncovered, but they just didn't notify the authorities. These are Nephilim giants all over underground in Utah. Okay? It's real. I can't tell you. It is absolutely real. I can't tell you that strongly enough. And again, I empathize and understand completely why the LDS Church would not want to stop construction on this thing. This is their new conference center, for heaven's sakes. They just, okay, let the skeletal remains just go to whoever. It's okay. It happened. I witnessed it in southern Utah in Johnson Canyon. I witnessed it all across the Ohio mounds with people that found these skeletal remains in these giant mounds of Little Egypt. All these things are just telling the story of what is really underground. Okay, these are entities that when they die, they become the demonic realm. Are they smart? You betcha they are. Are they misleading? Yes, because they'll never testify of the truth of the creator because they hate the creator. They're against him. There's no salvation in their book for them. They're done. They're the offspring of fallen angels and human women. Now, does it all kind of start to make sense, Bernard?
Oh, yes. What you're saying is very parallel in my own research as well. And we'll go deeper into my aspects of what I've found in the next episode. But for now, I'm going to let you continue on a bit more with what you have found.
So, yes, if Terry's listening, hats off to Terry and this whole group of, how this gathering has expanded into what it is today from really literally like 5 or 6 men at first into 200 or so gathering, trying to find truth, trying to understand what are UFOs, how are they tied to certain paradoxical rich areas of mining of gold and silver, and more importantly, what's the tie-in to Sasquatch, Bigfoot, and the Nephilim? Is there a tie-in? Absolutely there is. Sasquatch, Bigfoot are extra-dimensional watchers and protectors. There might be one shot, but they're never one analyzed because they're extra-dimensional. They just aren't going to let themselves be analyzed completely because once that is, the whole secret is now untold, right? Is now brought forth. So here's a gentleman that his first name is Daniel. I don't know if he wants to give his last name right now, but Daniel was referred by Terry with the most amazing story of a modern giant skeletal remains uncovered in a very remote canyon in southern Utah County, northern Utah County, but southern part of it. And so I was given the assignment to basically check into Daniel's story and dig into to verify it and quantify it, because it's really kind of hard to believe if this is legitimate or not. It's quite a story. And so I was privileged to really dig in, research Daniel's story, follow it through, do a forensic analysis on the pictures themselves, and clear Daniel to present at the gathering. It's huge, with a capital H, huge. And the connections with Daniel, how we got involved in going to this extreme hike into this area of the world, it's a story in and of itself. His mentor, who showed him, his work in there the last 50 years, oh my heavens. And the storyline, as they tug into it, here's what I'm going to tell you. Not only are the Nephilim real, but they're extant. They still exist. They still work and protect their own. That's what I found with this whole digging into this. It's not just ancient bones, Bernard. It's much more than that. They're very real. They still exert influence. And if not, I believe they are the intelligence behind the deep state, period. Deep state, as in deep underground military bases, as in the rest of the story. Okay?
That makes sense, and it's what I suspect. And it's what do you suspect, or have you found evidence that the elongated skull mummies or hominids or whatever that they find, those remains, are those potentially part leftover like genetics of the children of the Nephilim and humans, or is that something completely different?
Good question. That's a great question. It's my opinion that Homo sapien local tribesmen, especially in South America, try to imitate the Nephilim that they were meeting with in the earth and extra-dimensionally by forming, doing the pressure
Cranial deformation.
cranial deformation. Yeah, I believe that's what they're trying to imitate. That it's tied to them, but it's not the children of them. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And so another potential, what logically would make sense, is that what CERN is doing, and how CERN has actually had reports of these entities coming out and these interdimensional beings and stuff, that could be the portal that they're trying to make to free themselves or open themselves back into the physical dimension on the surface.
Yes, and again, if you got to take AI with a grain of salt, because AI is garbage in, garbage out in a lot of ways, and people are getting more and more, oh, well, AI is the definitive authority, right? But no. There was a recent post of a gentleman that went deep into Chat GPT, asking him about this topic of Nephilim and whatnot, and I'll give you the Reader's Digest version of this 2-hour deep dive into AI. I find this to be potentially credible because I know what CERN is capable of doing, right? AI said that the whole purpose of CERN is to reincarnate the originator of the Babylonian Empire, Nimrod, that he has been recreated, resurrected, if you will, to bring forth the Antichrist world order. Now, according to the record, the first king of Babylon, Nimrod, the mighty hunter, was a giant 19-foot tall individual. He was Nephilim seed. Of course, we see Nimrod building the Tower of Babel. We see all of that happening after the flood, antediluvian world. We see the bloodline coming from Noah's son Ham. We see all of that going into, again, what we have now is the confusing of the languages. All of that starts to make sense. That the king of the Nephilim power base would be this Nimrod, this mighty hunter. the one mighty and strong. Now that's
That's
I
fascinating.
yeah.
That makes sense too. Of that building after the flood, after the Atlantean time, that they would then try to build that Tower of Babel to whatever it was trying to restore their connection to their off world, to get rid of the fallenness of them or whatnot. And whatever it was then smited down by God or whatever, and then we had the falling out. And that was the one world language, this telepathic ability or like a higher consciousness that they then betrayed on us and disconnected us from both each other and source, and have been able to manipulate and rule through lies since.
Well, then it kind of parallels to that documentary on I just watched this weekend that goes back to why were the Anunnaki and the mystics of Heinrich Himmler, the occultists, they're so obsessed with getting that ancient bones and working, and that's the exact ancient structure tied into Nimrod, which is the Aryan lie, which is the Aryan supremacy. And that's what's needed with the DNA structure for CERN to resurrect him. That is what caught my eye. Like, is that why they needed this DNA material for CERN to resurrect Nimrod? And where is this going to unfold? Yeah.
That's fascinating, because I have heard rumors actually, like in the dark corners of the internet, of them claiming and saying that they were like trying to resurrect Nimrod and like the Nephilim, and that I had not heard the second half of that. That's what CERN's for, and that's what they were doing with the DNA they got of them. That's just creepy. That's not good.
Well, again, the good news is, from my standpoint, going back full circle, I went on the other side into my water world. I saw and interacted with the creator of the world, the universe, Yahshua, Messiah. I saw him, and I have to believe he's got it under control. He's on the throne. And all this machinations of the Nephilim, it's all the comfort I get personally. It's all in the book of Daniel in the Bible. It's all in Matthew chapter 24. And it's all in the book of Revelation. It's all foretold what will happen. We don't need to worry about being out of control. We just have to put our faith in the one that has it all in control. That's my message of hope.
Absolutely. And not just our faith, but our intent and our actions to make sure that the lives we live daily corresponds to God's grace and divine will of creation, that we do more good than we do harm, right? That we build off of all life and a better world, and not succumb to the demonic urges that are part of the duality that we all have as human beings.
And well said. Yeah, it goes back into the simple phrases of the Lord's Prayer. He tells people to pray for these things. He didn't say to recite these words specifically, but here's the concepts he says to pray for daily. And I just said it's simple. Okay, thy kingdom come, thy heavenly kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven. And to do that is simply one thing: thy will, his will be done. We have to be subservient to that will, and we have to be able to listen again through the connect of spirit and soul to know what that will is. Let it be done. And that's what I've been doing since 1987 when I had the experience. So
Absolutely. Truly God's work, sir. And it's been an honor. We're coming up to the 2 hour mark, but right before we stop here, for all to see is your website for anyone interested. And I myself get lots of requests to sell my monoatomics and such. I am not doing that yet, but you are selling your mineral, essentially Ormus or ultimatium, is it? And are you still selling that, or what is it?
We kind of have a hiatus on that because of the powers that be. So we have liquid ultimatium, which is liquid, which is the best. We've been allowed to sell that form. That's primarily the Ormus material in liquid form, but we can't. The story I just told you is not anywhere on the website for obvious reasons. Okay, just know that the ultimatium liquid is platinum group minerals, all platinum group, primarily iridium and rhodium with a high density power. Okay, that's what it is. And please, Bernard, get with my son Jeremy when you can tomorrow or whenever. Call the numbers, get an affiliate connection, and so you can get compensated for anything that you do with this podcast. We want to make sure that we pay people fairly for what they do. Okay.
Oh, awesome. I appreciate that. And there everyone can see that I was not being paid or having an affiliate for promoting this. It was my honest intent and belief. It still is. But hold off on your purchases until tomorrow so I can create an affiliate link, and it helps us both out. And that is amazing and awesome and truly appreciate. Also, we got about a minute left. Do you want to also state your books, or are your books also available on the website?
Yeah, Wellness Secrets for Life is my first book put out. It's basically I want to make it easy to read for people without all the scientific jargon, yada yada. Give me your email. I will happy to send you my doctoral thesis, as well as Dr. Pauling's. He's passed away, but hey man, it's good stuff. And if you're into research, that'll help immensely. But the Wellness Secrets for Life book was taught at university level for quite a few years as being the ultimate guide to nutritional healing. Okay. I also have a secondary companion book called Secret Assassins in Food. What good is good nutrition if you putting stuff in your body that negates it all? Okay, so be careful of what you eat. It's really important. I put this out well before a lot of the modern gurus are saying now, but I welcome them. It's all good stuff. Listen and learn and be well and be happy. That's my message.
And what a powerful and great message it is. It's been an absolute honor, sir. The chat loves you. I love you. I say we because there's me, myself, and I. I've got Bert and Ernie that makes BurnEye as the extra camera. So on that note, amazing, awesome. I'm going to end it here, but please stay on for a minute afterwards so I can get your email contacts, and that we will do this again very soon. As soon as possible, and maybe we'll include Terry in the next one if he's recouped from Moon Lake and ready to do interviews again. And also saw Harry Hubbard in the chats as well. Not everyone agrees with everyone's research, but it's all about putting the ideas out, finding the common parallel finds and information, and trying to figure out the truth from the lies. And we had Dr. True, Mr. Dr. True. Thank you.
That's fine. Okay, Bernard, my pleasure. Be well, Godspeed, and we'll look forward to another interview soon. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Night. Thank you.
You crazy mother. Yeah.
It's just BurnEye.
BurnEye just like last week, huh?